Good morning and Merry Christmas to you. Christmas morning, getting a break to work on our next hand, which is Pocket Queens from Under the Gun. So, Under the Gun, as I've said, I do take out twos, threes, and fours. I leave everything else in, and I open raise, and I don't normally adjust my sizes. I guess, unless it's really just a very, very loose table. But even with a loose table, they're going to be playing very wide, and we're out of position. So I just like doing a standard three big blind open raise. And what ends up happening is that we have one limper, and then we have a 3-bet to 22. That is actually a fairly large size. So Villain 5's calling. He's playing 26-8. He calls 22%. I'm going to say Villain 2 is probably playing speculative hands, minus like queens plus ace king. I think he would have raised those. I'm going to say suited aces and possibly the suited connectors, although kind of an unknown. He's calling out of position. So it's actually probably more something like this that he's calling with and hoping to flop something. This guy 3-bets. Now his 3-bet stat's only 2%. How many hands do we have? We've got 200 and some hands on him. When we look at 3-bet by position, he's done it in the cutoff. 1 out of 14, 1 out of 26. His 3-bet range is probably going to be somewhat tight. He could be making a squeeze, but I think 3-bet ranges tend to be something like this: queens plus ace king, and especially for this size. When he did 22, I think I'm gonna discount like aces and kings. So let's do like waiting, because I just don't think he would 3-bet to 22 like that. I think this is overly large. I think he's trying to get people to fold, and I just don't see him doing that with like queens, kings, and aces. So I think maybe ace queen could also do this. Maybe ace king. We could probably assign some weighting to that as well. But I think if he has aces or kings, then he's definitely gonna be. I think this size doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to raise this size. So now it's on us. What do we do? Well, we're going to be out of position. So what we have to do is really kind of tighten up our ranges a little bit. And when I do, when I look at, what hands do I call, I take into account that we are going to be out of position. Now, this is my standard continuance range, and I would 4-bet kings and aces. And I think I would basically 4-bet kings and aces. Now, looking back at this, I think if we had aces and kings, it probably makes sense to just call here, because I think he's very strongly does not have aces or kings, and probably doesn't have queens either. So like we reduce the weighting. So if we had aces or kings, yeah, with kings we're risking an ace coming out on the flop. But I think so, maybe like 4-bet with the kings, but with aces, I think we could call, because if a king comes out, I think he's gonna get it all in on us no matter what. But this is gonna be my continuance range. I think we call with it. This is gonna be standard. And for him playing so tight, I think I am going to keep it. I'm going to hope to connect, because if I connect with a 10 jack or queen and hit trips, or even have an overpair, I'm probably going to be getting it in on the flop. With ace king, ace queen, if I don't hit top pair, I'm probably not going to be continuing with them at all. So I did call very large. It's a very large size, and Villain 5 folded, and we take it to a flop. So I have 3.77%. I have 50 combos. This is their range. We have the weighting, so it's 3.09%. We've got 41 combos. And the flop comes Jack 9-4, Rainbow. Alright, so Jack of diamonds, 9 of spades, 4 of clubs. We have equity advantage right now. because we have the overpairs. I don't think he necessarily has ace jack, but I look at his c-bet stat, and he's running 6 for 6 when he's in position. I assume he's going to be betting here. And especially on this board, if I call, you're looking at ace king, ace queen. I think he's going to take a stab at it to try to bet to get me to fold. I do have stack to pot ratio is, a little less than 2 to 1. Am I willing to get it all in? Yeah, I think with an overpair, it is. I think his raise is too large to indicate an overpair. So I think the thing we could do is kind of get him trapping. I think if we bet here, it gives him a reason to fold his ace king and ace queen. We don't give him a chance to bet. So when I look at this hand, I think we are going to be checking 100%. And then we're going to look to check raise our sets and our overpairs. And probably our pocket pair below top cards as well, because I think I'm going to discount aces, kings, and queens. Although the pocket pair below the top card, I think we could probably argue we would lead into him with this a little bit more. But then that kind of leads into what the general population does with donk bets. They tend to donk bet their medium strength hands, so I kind of think we're going to be checking 100% of our range at this point. Now he bets actually fairly large, so he bets 36.3 into a 48.5 pot. Now again, on his range, I would assume if he had an overpair, aces, kings, or queens, he would be betting a little bit smaller. The board's pretty dry. He wants to keep me around. He would bet, let's say, half pot and hope that I call with something, let's say king queen with a gut shot maybe. So I kind of think he's just betting this no made hand, or I should say his overcards. Let's do that. He's betting his overcards, ace king, ace queen, and then it's on us. And if he bets ace king, ace queen, then I think we execute our check raises, and we're going to be check raising with, I think, probably all of them, even with the tens. I don't think the jack, I mean, maybe he has ace jack, but I would say no. I think ace jack, it would be too loose to make a 3-bet to 22. Now I could be wrong, but he's a loose passive. I think ace king, ace queen is probably what he has. So I'm gonna raise with tens, overpair sets, and then I do think our overcards, I think we're going to do it with our 2-card backdoor flush draws. Whoops, let's get our groups here. And probably only ace king, because I think at worst we're going to be tying with ace king. So I think that's going to be my check raise hand here. And it is, you do have to consider it. Yeah, he might have. I think if we have ace king, we block the aces, we block his kings. It makes it more likely that he himself has ace king or perhaps king queen. But again, I don't think I think he's got ace king or ace queen. I think that is what he has. So that's going to be my check raise range. If he calls with ace king, he calls with ace queen. King, we have 2-card backdoor flush potential. If he folds it, hey, that's also great. We take down a pretty big pot. Now our raise. So that's what I do. I raised all in. So this is 38.3%. I've got 18 combos. He needs 24% equity to call, and I don't think he does. He should be folding all of his hands. And if he comes along, if he's thinks we're making a play at him, so be it. So he did call. I think that did surprise me a bit. I think when he called, I was worried that maybe he did have kings or aces. Board runs out 8 and a 6. We showed the kings. He showed ace king. So that kind of fits what I imagined, I think. So I'm just gonna add this. let's just say he c-bets with them, but why call? So I think this is a case with this player when I check raised, he had to call 53.7 more, and he probably felt obligated to call at that point. Uh, I don't think he needed to. I think if I was playing this, I bet, and he check raise like this, I think I'm gonna find a fold, because I'm thinking, does he really open raise and call with king queen? Probably not. Does he do it with queen 10? No, probably not. I'm expecting over pairs. I'm expecting maybe ace jack if I'm really loose. Trips, jacks and nines. I don't even expect two pair at this point. So I think he made a mistake. I think this was a pretty good hand. I think I played it pretty good, and I actually like my read. I think his pre-flop raise was way too large for aces, kings, and queens. It just doesn't match the population. Now maybe that's a good thing for me. Maybe I need to take advantage of that raise size. So let's go pre-flop again. If I was in his position, maybe with aces and kings, maybe I should make that bet, because that's 2.2 big blinds. Normally my 3-bet range is going to be up to 9 or 10 if I'm in position. I would probably make it like 1.2, so 12 big blinds at this level, and I'd probably scale up to maybe 15 big blinds because we have a caller. But maybe I should take advantage of this, because it makes it seem like we're trying to get folds instead of calls, and that maybe I'll get paid off by a thinking player. But I think it's going to have to be a thinking player. It's going to have to be somebody that like this, 3,000 hands. He's playing 21-4, tight passive. Let's see if he's a winner. Yeah, he's a winner. He's probably a decent player. So against a player like this, I think we could make that play, and he might actually do what we do and say, well, I'm going to exclude aces and kings from his range because it doesn't make sense to raise that much. But I don't think I would make that play against a player like this. It's probably just an unthinking player. All right, hopefully you like this. Hope you all have a Merry Christmas. Look tomorrow for another hand.